My name is Baylee J. Newbecker, and I was born on October 3rd, 1990, in the small town of Gravelbourg, Saskatchewan, which has a population of about 1,100 people. I had an older brother named Wendell, who was born 2 years before me. When I was still a baby, my family moved to a town near Gravelbourg called Palmer. We lived there for a few years, but I don't remember much of it. Sometime during those years, my dad's parents both died of cancer. They were only 46 and 52 years old. I was just a baby, so sadly, I don't remember them at all. My family moved into their house, which was on a farm about 10 minutes north of Gravelbourg. This is where I lived most of my childhood, and it's where I have some of my best memories. Just 3 days after my 4th birthday, my little sister Brooklyn was born. We were heavily influenced by our older brother. We would always watch him play video games, and we liked the same shows he did, like Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles, and Dragon Ball Z. I was the pink Power Ranger 3 times for Halloween. I remember jumping on the trampoline with my brother and doing Power Ranger moves. We had a lot of good times on the farm since there was a lot to do. There was a river we would go to catch frogs. There was even a spot called the Rock Crossing where you could hop from rock to cross the river. We had cows and cats and dogs, which made me quite the animal lover. Other fun areas were the old house, which was falling apart and full of all kinds of cool junk, the old barn, where we would climb the old wooden stairs to get to the top, and the junkyard, where there was a weird sloped metal thing. I don't know exactly what it was, but we'd always climb it, and it was scary and fun. We would ride our bikes and dirt bikes and have so much fun. We even had 2 ponds in the backyard, which is where we would keep the frogs we caught. There were some good hills nearby where we would go tobogganing in the winter. And 2 of my best friends, Danelle and Delee, lived on farms really close to mine, so I always got to hang out with them. And I think it was the summer between grade 1 and 2, my friend Angèle was over, and we wanted to go out on the trampoline, but we didn't want my little sister to tag along. So we hid on the staircase leading to the basement until the coast was clear, then we ran up the stairs. I slipped on one of the steps and smashed my head on the edge of the stairs so hard that it split the skin open. I had to go to the hospital and get 5 stitches, which was not fun, but I was proud that I didn't cry at the hospital at all, even though I was bawling when I first hit my head. The stitches were right next to my left eye, so I was extremely lucky I didn't hit my eye when I fell. I still have a scar there to this day. When I was about 7 years old, I started getting little white spots on my body. I didn't know what they were, but they started spreading rapidly. They didn't faze me, though. Other kids would question me about it, but I didn't really have an answer for them since I didn't even know what it was. After a while, I realized it was not normal and that it wasn't going to go away. I hated when people asked me about it. I stopped wearing shorts, and I would only wear skirts if I was wearing tights with them. I also avoided swimming because I didn't like wearing a swimsuit. I didn't know at the time, but it was called vitiligo, which is an autoimmune disorder where your immune system attacks healthy pigment cells, which results in patches of skin with no pigment. I was lucky that I didn't have any on my face or my arms, and I was also lucky because no one at school would tease me about it. The only time was one day when my brother was prancing around the house saying, leopard girl," until my mom made him stop. Having vitiligo has impacted my self-esteem so much over the years, and I don't think many people realize the effect it can have. I used to cry myself to sleep at night, thinking that no one would ever want to marry me. I could make a whole video about this topic, but all I want to say is that I know at least a few of you watching this video have vitiligo as well, and if you ever need someone to talk to, please don't hesitate to message me. I'm here for you. When I was in grade 7, my parents got a divorce. It didn't really shock me at all since they would fight a lot anyways. My dad stayed on the farm while the rest of us moved into town. It was actually a nice change to live in town, although I would still miss the farm at times. About a year or so later, my grandpa got really ill and passed away at the age of 65. It was the first death that really affected me. The only grandparent I had left was my grandma. The best days of my life were the days I would spend camping at Elbow. My relatives would camp with us, so we'd have 3 campsites all in a row, which were located right along the lake, just up a small hill. Also, we cut down some trees between the campsites so there'd be little pathways leading to each other's sites. There was also a small town nearby, because the campsite's actually called Tufts Bay, and the town is called Elbow, but we just refer to the campsite as Elbow, just because. So, since the town was nearby, we got to know some of the locals, which made summers there even more fun. We had so much fun boating, tubing, water skiing on the lake. All the parents would sleep in campers and the kids would sleep in tents, and those were like our little homes away from home. We'd always have sleepovers in each other's tents and watch scary movies late at night. Sometimes we'd go to town to get some ice cream and go mini golfing. When I had just turned 15, I found out my mom had gotten a job in Medicine Hat, which is a city in a different province. I was kind of excited, but at the same time really sad to leave all my good friends. We were going to be moving in November, which was right in the middle of the semester. I remember my last day of class, which was on Remembrance Day. My friends and I were all hugging and crying. Our eyes were so red, and right after that, we all had to go get our pictures taken for our driver's licenses. So then I lived in Medicine Hat, which to me felt like a big city, even though it's not that big. It was quite the adventure at first. We got 2 dogs, Maddie and Ben. Well, we got Maddie shortly before we moved, and my mom also got remarried. I got a lot of attention for being the new girl since it was the middle of the semester and because I was in French immersion, which only had a small number of students. But soon that newness wore out and I realized I didn't have any close friends. I would sit at the French immersion table at lunch, but all people would talk about were people I didn't know, the trip they went on the year before, stuff like that, which I wasn't there for, and I just had a hard time joining in on conversations, so it made me feel like an outcast. I realized it was pointless to eat with them when it was like I didn't exist to them, but there was nowhere else to go. So I started leaving the school at lunchtime. I would walk a few blocks down the road to this secluded park where I would sit on the swing and eat my lunch all alone. Then I would walk back to the school and sit in the bathrooms for a few minutes until the bell rang. No one ever questioned where I was, which probably meant they didn't care. The only person I kind of considered my friend was this guy, Christian. Our houses were kind of near each other, so we would take the same path home. I actually lived about twice as far from school as him, so I had a bus route that I could have taken, but I preferred to walk just in case we ran into each other. It was weird because sometimes I had a crush on him and sometimes I didn't. It was like I couldn't make up my mind, but all I knew is I really enjoyed his company. After grade 10 was over and summer had started, a fair came to town, and Christian asked if I wanted to go with him and these 2 other girls. I agreed, and when he came to pick me up, he said the 2 girls couldn't make it anymore. Yeah, right, I think it was a setup. We hung out, just the 2 of us, at the fair and had a good time. And at the end of the night, we were in the parking lot waiting for his mom to come pick us up. It was really awkward and silent. He mustered up the courage to ask me out, and I turned him down. I was in one of those phases where I really didn't have a crush on him. Plus, summer was coming up, which meant fun times at Elbow and flirting with Elbow boys. After the summer, though, it was back to school in Medicine Hat, which I was dreading. I was actually considering moving back to Gravelburg for grades 11 and 12, but I decided against it. I would still walk home with Christian a lot of the time. The day after my birthday, he invited me over to his house to watch a movie. I knew it was on his mind, but I agreed anyways. We ended up kissing for most of the movie, but he didn't ask me out again. A month later, we were hanging out with some friends and we were on our way to someone's house. The car I was in ended up racing with another vehicle. I was freaking out the whole time and saying, "I don't want to die!" The car went around a curve and hit some ice, and we skidded out of control, across someone's lawn, and into a truck that was parked on someone's driveway. We uprooted a bush in the process and wrecked the lawn. The truck we hit only had a scratch, but the back of the girl's car was smashed. We were so shaken up. I remember standing on the sidewalk, shivering in the cold as we waited for the police and the girl's parents to arrive. Christian came over and put his arms around me to keep me warm. We just stood there huddled for a long time. The next day, we were walking home from school and he invited me over to his house again to watch a movie. We ended up making out again, and this time he asked me out. I remember being hesitant, but I said yes. That day was November 5th, 2006, and we were both 16 years old. To this day, we are still together. That means we've been dating for 6.5 years. After that, school became more bearable since I wasn't always alone. Christian was still my only real friend, but I still had some good memories. Even though I had a tough time at that school, I think back and wonder to myself what my life would have been like if I stayed in Gravelburg with my dad and my brother. Part of me regrets moving, and I would go back in time in a heartbeat, but if I did, I never would have met Christian. He's the one reason I would not go back in time if I could. When I graduated high school, I stayed in Medicine Hat to take pre-veterinary medicine. I was actually torn between art and science, and I really liked both. I was deciding between vet school and an art degree, and chose vet school since I didn't know what I would do with an art degree. So I did 2 years of pre-veterinary classes in Medicine Hat, then moved to Saskatoon for my 3rd year. The summer before I moved to Saskatoon, I was really getting into YouTube. I had already made a few videos earlier, but during the summer of 2010, I started making videos on a regular basis and was gaining a following. I had about 400 subscribers by the end of the summer and over 1,000 by the end of the year. Around this time, my grandma was diagnosed with cancer and was on chemo for a while, but she decided to stop the chemo treatments. As her condition worsened, she moved into a hospice. I didn't like the idea of a place where people go to wait to die. I also didn't like that it was in a different city in a different province, so it was hard for me to go out and see her. I knew she was going to die, so every time we left, I desperately wanted to run down the hallway, back to her room, to see her one more time, in case it was the last time. I also had a trip to Vegas planned with my boyfriend's family, since he's the youngest and he was turning 21. I wasn't 21 yet, but I went anyway. I was worried about my grandma, and my mom said she would only call me if it was an emergency. One day we were at Caesar's Palace having a good time when my phone started ringing. I couldn't answer it in time, but saw that my mom had called. I called her back and waited for her to answer as tears filled my eyes because I knew what she was going to say. Sure enough, my grandma had passed away. I burst into tears, and my boyfriend's family was there to comfort me. I just tried focusing on enjoying the rest of the trip since I knew that's what my grandma would have wanted. She was my 4th relative to die of cancer, including my grandparents on my dad's side and my 6-year-old cousin. I just wish I could walk up to cancer and punch it in the face. That same summer, I had just finished my 3rd year of pre-veterinary school, and I got interviews with 2 vet schools, but didn't get in. I was going to finish my animal science degree the next year, but was hesitant. I really was into my artistic side and had been contemplating switching into animation. Ever since I had seen Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, I was really curious and interested in animation. I thought to myself, somebody animated that. People get to do that as their job. I want to do that. I didn't tell anyone about my interest in animation because I thought I was too far into the vet thing to change my mind. I realized, hey, I'm only 20 years old and this decision could change my life forever. So I researched different schools and even talked on the phone with a recruiter and filled out an application form before I told a single person. Then I had to break the news to my mom, and it turns out she was really supportive of me. She also used to be really into art, so she wanted me to go for it. I wish I could have told my grandma about it since she was an artist as well. It turned out to be the best decision of my life. I had to move away from my family and my boyfriend, but we're making it work. I'm now a student at the Art Institute of Vancouver, and I graduate in 2 months. I can't wait to be done school and get a job in animation. Meanwhile, I've continued making YouTube videos, and it's become a huge part of my life. I don't think I'll ever stop making videos until I'm physically unable to. If it wasn't for your support, making videos wouldn't be this much fun. You guys keep me motivated to keep making more content, and I wouldn't be where I am without you. I've had my ups and downs, but right now things are going really well, and I like to think of this as just the beginning of my grand adventure.